What happened in Vegas that didn't stay in Vegas? 15 years or so ago, back when I was a bartender, had one of my regulars come in. Pretty typical middle class dad type, khaki shorts and polo shirts, basic white guy haircut, and tell me all about going to Vegas the week before with some friends, and his experience smoking crack out of a light bulb in the backseat of a Honda Civic with a couple of hookers, just prior to taking advantage of their services. Told him that was exactly the kind of story they meant needed to stay in Vegas. It was always weird seeing him at the restaurant with his wife and kids after that. My best friend came to visit me in SoCal and I thought it would be fun to take her to Vegas for a weekend, as she had never been there. That's when I found out that she had a serious gambling addiction. Out of everywhere I could have taken her. That's like locking an alcoholic in a liquor store. Co-workers got drunk and hooked up in Vegas while we were there for business. She got pregnant. They decided to give it a shot. They've been together happily for 10 years. So, I went to Vegas with a few friends for a weekend of fun. We hit the casinos, watched some shows, and enjoyed the nightlife. On our last night, we decided to try the famous Vegas buffet. We were all pretty full, but my buddy, Mike, decided to go back for one more plate of crab legs. As he was walking back to our table, he tripped over someone's bag and dropped the entire plate of crab legs. They went flying everywhere, and one particularly large crab leg landed in the open purse of a lady sitting nearby. She didn't notice at first, but when she finally saw it, she screamed like it was a live crab attacking her. Mike, trying to be helpful, reached into her purse to retrieve the crab leg, but of course, this looked incredibly suspicious. Security rushed over, and before we knew it, Mike was being escorted out of the buffet, crab leg in hand. My friend and I were approached in a casino by two guys. We were all visiting from out of town. My friend was really into one of the guys. I had no interest in the other and told him so. Despite that, we decided to be good wingmen and talked until the sun came up while our friends made out all night. Anyway, we've been together for 12 years now. Happily married with 2 kids. And yes, of course, we came back to Vegas to elope. I know a guy whose wife came home from a convention in Vegas with a bun in the oven. She must have had a good time. The husband had a vasectomy a couple of years earlier. That Prince Harry scandal, with the naked billiards. That got out. What happened? Prince Harry was photographed in Vegas playing strip billiards in his suite with some girls he apparently met at the hotel bar. Photos then leaked out. I assume it was some of the girls' friends that snapped the photos and sold them. When I was recovering from brain surgery, I found photos on my phone of me in Vegas. I remember going there, but that's all I can remember. I can't remember anything else, though. I had a 2-story suite on top of the MGM Grand. On the first floor, there was a sliding door that opened up to a large private rooftop outdoor patio with a private hot tub. The photos were taken at night, and it had a bitchin' view of the strip. The problem is I have no photos saved of any people. There are a few photos of me. I thought maybe I was there alone, until I realized one of those photos wasn't a selfie. I texted the phone number of this girl I met back in high school and asked her a strange question. Had we ever gone to Vegas? Her response was her sending a photo she still had on her phone of me with her in Vegas. But we were on the sidewalk, rolling, and this was 2008. I remember this. But the Vegas photos on my phone were from 2010. She laughs and tells me that 2008 was the last time we had hung out. To this day, it still drives me crazy not knowing what happened there in 2010. Went to Vegas to celebrate my anniversary. Was sick as all shit. My lymph nodes were so swollen I couldn't swallow, and breathing wasn't easy. I was seen by a wonderful primary urgent care doctor who treated me with basic antibiotics and sent me home to my hotel. I get better over the week of antibiotics and am home and seem back to normal. And, yet. Months later, and I've lost 60 pounds. I don't sleep. I mean, literally, I'm going 72 hours without sleep at a time before I pass out for an hour or 2 nap. I have night sweats and faint frequently. After giving it a bit to make sure it wasn't some basic virus, I tried to get in to see someone, but my primary care physician had just recently retired and getting a new patient appointment takes a bit. I tell you this so you understand why it took me 6 weeks to see someone after I had decided it was concerning. I went to see my new OB for possible early onset menopause. It sorts lines up with the symptoms and my age and my family history and whatnot. The new OB joked about getting a fully physical and invasive exam on my birthday. Yeah. I managed to schedule this shitshow for my birthday. She says that there is no indication that my vag has prolapsed, and that there is no possibility that I was at the point of any kind of menopause. So, she dipped out to confer with someone else. She returned to inform me I'd need labs because the only thing she could think of was HIV. So, I spent my birthday waiting for lab results on a rapid HIV test. Good news. Negative. Not good news, other tests aren't. Turns out that while it isn't HIV, it is possibly leukemia, which likely first exhibited symptoms back on my anniversary trip in Vegas. So, long story short. TL. Doctor went to Vegas, maybe brought home cancer. Met a British girl who had just ditched her friend who she was traveling across America with. The friend was having issues, so girl decided to go solo without much of a plan. I traveled around in a camper van and my new job pushed the start date back a month. So me and her ended up spending that month together around Utah and Arizona. A bunch of us young employees were sent out to Vegas for a work convention. Our wild night out on the town involved going to a super pricey steakhouse that was way over per diem. In order to afford it, we went out at the beginning of the week and bought some groceries, and spent the whole week eating cereal for breakfast and PB&J with bananas for lunch to save up our meal per diem for that one night of decadent food. We never told the boss that was how we spent our meal per diem, because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But one of the guys put the whole dinner on his credit card, because we didn't care at the time, and he got points on his credit card. And it sent out an alert to him and his wife about how he had like a $1,000 credit card charge in Vegas. We got to listen to him try to explain how it was for dinner, really, only dinner with friends. So that part escaped Vegas. I was at a flight school once. Early morning flight in Vegas. A lady came in during my debriefing and told us, "So I heard you guys on the radio." It reminded me of my days as a police dispatcher. At the time my friend was applying to the Vegas Metro PD, so I asked her about that. She was actually really cool, initially, and gave me her card. She said she knew the police recruiters and she could put my friend in touch. I said yeah, sure. Then she says, paraphrasing, "This was 10 years ago, TBH. I wouldn't want to be a police officer now. You can't even do anything. Back in the day we used to pick up homeless people and drive them to the desert and leave them there," and her face tone was upset about how that wasn't accepted anymore. Me and my flight instructor were stunned. She looked at us like, "What?" The owner of the club I worked at took the whole staff to Las Vegas for a 2-day visit. So me, the DJ, and the bouncers are sitting near the fountain at the Mirage having drinks. One of the bouncers looked at Slick, who was about 5'5" and weighed about 150 pounds. Nobody liked him because he had Billy Bada syndrome, and said, "Slick, I'll give you $100 to do a Tarzan yell and jump in that fountain." Of course Slick was not going to do it, so I piped in with 100. "I'll do it." So the money goes on the table and ask the waitress to get me someone from security. About 4 guys come from out of nowhere and the lead guy asked me what was up. I asked him if they'd just throw me out or arrest me. He laughed and said, "For $100 I'll do it, but we'll just escort you out." So I stand up, grab the money, do my best Tarzan yell, jump in, splash around, get out, walk up to the lead guy and said, "Okay, let's go." All the security guys were laughing with me as I walked proudly out the door. The mob hits, that got dumped out in the desert. I work for a national company that destroys medical waste and animal human tissue. Las Vegas is the only place we can't or any other company physically service and pick up that waste. I'm convinced it's because of the mob. I wish I was kidding. Last year too, so many bodies were found because the lake nearly dried up. I got married. He didn't stay there, followed me home 26 years ago. Don't believe that slogan. My wife goes everywhere I go. It's been a decade and she's still her for some reason. Guess I'll keep her. We got married in Vegas instead of having a big wedding here. It was awesome and I highly advise doing it. Saved so much money and got so much more out of it. For half the price we flew out all the close people in our lives and got to do a bunch of stuff. Vegas is very kind to people getting married there. Got into clubs we never would have seen. Straight VIP to the best places. If you ask they will just do it most of the time. Tip big and be nice. My buddy banged a 300 plus LB prostitute while I went out and looked for my lost phone. Lost my phone at some point during the night, went back to retrace my steps and find it. Told my buddy to not let Leru in his one night in Vegas and we split up. Fast forward 2.5 hours, I couldn't find my phone so went back to the room to borrow his to try and call it. Card into the room and just hear "don't come in we fucking" in a fairly deep woman's voice. I was so hissed at this point I froze for a second, and just said please just let me get your phone. Round the corner and see 300 plus LB riding my boy cowgirl. His eyes went as wide as dinner plates, panicked and threw me his phone. I walked out cracking up. Ended up finding my phone though. Coming home from the Marine San Diego base to Chicago on a Greyhound bus, I had a layover and the guys that were with me met some girls and one took to hitting it off with. We were so lucky to have them on the same bus so we all paired off. She ended up going down on me under a blanket. They all got off in street. Louie and she have me a last goodbye kiss and told in my ear thanks for one last time till I get married. Find out she was getting married in 2 days. One of my friends is an ardent fan of the Hangover film series. He always dreamed that when one of his friends, or he himself, got married, they would arrange everything as it was in the film. It turned out that everything in life is not like in the movie. Half the city, including the police, does not ignore the antics of drunk and stoned people. He didn't go into detail, but he is permanently banned from Nevada. Vegas is nothing but a giant overpriced Target these days. My grandparents lived in Vegas in the 60s and took me back in the mid 90s. It was after the family boom so Treasure Island had the biggest arcade I'd ever seen. The Luxor was pretty new and had VR rides and all that kind of stuff but rooms and buffets were still super cheap. My grandmother playing slots got most of our meals comped. Still pretty cheap by the time I made it to adulthood but the bloom was off the family stuff so non-gambling activities were moving to the club world and that was expensive and miserable. By the mid 2010s, Vegas just sucked in every way. Everything, from rooms to buffets to drinks when you're not at a table, is expensive. Anywhere more than a block away from the Strip or Fremont is brutally depressing. Was there for a convention. Worked for 3 days, 12-hour shifts, and then was forced to go to a party for the distributors suppliers from the show. Got there and had a few drinks. I sat down in the lounge area and promptly fell asleep. I woke up to my coworker prodding me and tell me we're being kicked out because my boss was caught with someone in a side room. Figures why he was so adamant we were to go with him considering none of us wanted to be there. Someone ratted him out to his wife the accountant and well shit hit the fan. 2 years ago wife and I were in Vegas, pretty drunk and ordered room service. I joked that she should do one of those pizza dare type of things. I was surprised to see that she actually did it, and opened the door in her open bust lingerie. She chatted for a while too. After coming back she told her friend about this. I found out because when we all went again to Vegas, her friend was like you should do that pizza dare again.